Hey everybody, welcome back to Backlog Banter. I'm your boy Abram, joined only by my Metroid plush. Where is it? In the frame here. There it is. We're doing the rare Abram Buhner solo video here. Very casual, very casual. Just because I wanted to chat through this new trailer we got for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond today. Obviously, if you're a fan of mine, why? That's peculiar. But let's just say that you are in your own fucked up reality. You would know that this is maybe my most anticipated game ever. And I just wanted to sit down and I wanted to chat about this trailer because I think it is calling on things that define Metroid Prime 2 and Metroid Prime 3. And I think that part of the odd position that Prime 4 is in is that this is a game that is sort of calling on the appeals and strengths of the Metroid Prime games that many people haven't played. Most people, if they've played any Metroid Prime, have only played one. And while that game is a masterpiece and it's one of my top 5 favorite games ever, I think that this, to me, Prime 4 seems to be a game informed by games 2 and 3. And so what I want to do with this video is I just sort of want to walk through this trailer together. Don't want to take up too much of your time. And I just want to sort of show you what I see in it that I think a lot of people aren't seeing in it, just by merit of not having the touchstones I have, which is not to make me sound superior, not to make me sound like the better Metroid fan, but simply to say that I think that this game would have benefited a lot from an audience that had access to Prime 2 and 3, even if they are, to be clear, in no way necessary to play 4. This is very much a sort of a new storyline, it seems. But yeah, let's get into this. And to be clear, another thing I want to say, this is not a referendum on Nintendo's marketing. I don't care if you buy Prime 4 or don't buy Prime 4. That's not my responsibility. They're going to keep making Metroid games if this game sells 1 million copies or 100 million copies. So really, this is just sort of an educational exercise so you can hopefully kind of better understand, I think, where this game's head is at, where retro is at, and maybe learn a little something or see the game through a slightly different lens. So let's stop waffling. Let's get to it. Hopefully the audio is fine too. If I screwed it up, I screwed it up. I'm not fixing this. This is a one-take operation here. So one of the things I want to talk about right off the bat is just the interest I have in these different environments. I think that a really important part of Metroid is the way that Samus relates to her environment and then the way you relate to Samus as the player. And I think that something that this trailer is doing in those establishing shots where Samus is quite small, is doing in moments like this here. I'm going to let it play for another second or two. With these harsh environments, I think what we're indicating in part is that, Samus is in a hostile environment. And I think that that is sort of obvious to an extent, but where these games really sing, I think, is when you put Samus in a position where she is capable and powerful, but not sort of all-powerful, not superhuman. And I feel like sort of part of the challenge that the Metroid series has right now is that it's one of these Nintendo series that still really has two distinct sub-series, and each sort of has its own interpretation of the characters in the world. The Prime games and the 2D games, I'm specifically really putting Beyond up against Dread here, are depicting Samus very differently. I think they're trying to achieve something very different in her character. And I think that we're sort of losing this this idea that a Nintendo franchise can have these different spokes, because you think about something like Zelda, where there used to be a pretty clear delineation between these top-down or just handheld Zelda games and the console Zelda games. With something like Echoes of Wisdom, we saw that merge, and I think we're very much not seeing a merger here, because if you're thinking about Dread, you're thinking about this very agile, very powerful, very badass character, and I love that depiction of Samus. But my friend Jonathan Holmes, I think, very sharply defined her character in that game as almost like a Bayonetta take on Samus. And that's very much not what the Samus of Prime is. The Samus of Prime is this one here, who's stepping into these vast, foreboding environments, who's kind of getting lost in these jungle spaces, these big fortresses that are sort of presiding over her. This sense of scale is very important. The sense that you are not bigger than the environment is important. And this sense of harshness here, I really enjoy that. It reminds me of some of the best details of a game like Metroid Prime 2, which is, if I had to define it in a word, I would say it's a game that is very oppressive. And there's a lot of really great animation level details that I think sell that. One of my favorites is that in that game, every time you enter a save station, Samus like sighs like she's releasing this tension in her shoulders as she's sort of constantly buffeted and assaulted by the Aang on the planet the game takes place on, Aether. That's a game where even as you come to master your environment, you are never truly, you know, in a position where you have the upper hand. And I like how this trailer is indicating that appeal of Prime 2. I think that's a very special thing that not even Prime 1 captures. That feeling as you're playing where your heart beats a little bit faster when you start to think about how long it's been since the last save station, when you start to feel like there's going to be a boss encounter coming up, or when you're just unsure of what's going to meet you on the other side of a doorway. I think that we're getting a little bit of that, and I really like this detail of Samus being physically buffeted by these harsh environments. I really like that a lot. And then we're seeing a little bit here of the psychic abilities. I mean, we see them so briefly, and I actually want to linger on this shot. So, as usual, pat up myself on the back here for where I paused. But the psychic abilities to me are really interesting because I think they're playing to this Metroid Prime 1 sensibility. And I think that the first and second, because now we're on trailer 4, the first and the second trailers really had that contemplative, explorative, slow Metroid Prime 1 feeling to them. This curiosity, this novelty, this discovery. Of course, all the games have it, but I wouldn't say that they're all defined by it like Prime 1 is. And so, I sort of my thesis that I've been building on this game, obviously, without having the full thing in my hands, having only demoed it at the Switch 2 preview event, is that I really feel like it's working to capture all the different dimensions of the three Prime games and sort of their unique identities. I think it's a series, much like Pikmin, actually, where each of the games, the core first three games, have a similar core idea, a similar core structure, but they all interpret it differently. And I feel like the way that Samus relates to the environment here feels very Prime 2 to me. I think the way that sort of aspects like the psychic abilities are unfolding in the gameplay feels very Prime 1. But this moment here, and let's pay close attention to this, I think feels very Prime 3. We have these many montage shots that we're encountering of Samus in action. I really like this here. All right, let's pause here before the boss fight. I really like, and maybe I'll just go back through it and keep playing it while I'm talking here. But I really like the way that we're framing this action. I think that this is another place actually where you feel that oppression of Prime 2. When Samus is here on the jungle floor of Vuros and we have these creatures up above her and she's outnumbered and she's being overrun, but she's also very calm. I really like that. I think that this captures this really true Prime essence to me, where again Samus is capable, she's powerful, but she's at a disadvantage. And again, very Prime 2 to me, but the way that we're emphasizing action is very much like Prime 3. I was remarking to somebody on Discord earlier today that if I was sort of the king of the Nintendo kingdom and I had the job of trying to get a modern Nintendo audience interested in a new Metroid Prime game, I wouldn't have remastered Metroid Prime 1. I would have remastered Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. Because it's a very intriguing game insofar as that it sort of trades in some of the more non-linear, more contemplative, more oppressive feelings of its predecessors for something that's a little bit more straightforwardly cinematic, for something that's a little bit more straightforwardly action-oriented. There's a lot of really brilliant action set pieces in that game. There's one early on where you're falling down this chasm with Ridley and you two are battling in midair. I really enjoy that. I really enjoy some of the more linear, straightforward shooting gallery scenes that you're in as Samus alongside Galactic Federation troops. Um, that game is very much in what it's asking the player to do, aligned with a lot of these action scenes that we see. And again, it sort of goes back to reinforce my perspective that it looks like Prime 4 is really doing a lot to combine the appeal of the games before it. And I think that that's hard to sell, hard to demonstrate when many people don't understand what Prime 2 and Prime 3 are. And it's not, again, it's not a skill issue. It's just a reality of the fact that I think these games have been lost to time, and not re-released, since Prime Trilogy. And that has led to this looming shadow and identity of Prime 1 kind of being what defines all of the games, and I don't think that's the case. I think that when I look at this action, when I look at the way Samus lives in the frame, I'm really thinking a lot more of Prime 2 and Prime 3 than I am of Prime 1. And I personally really like that. Let's have a look at the bike here. This is still the aspect of the game I'm least sold on. For sure. I just gotta say it, I'm not crazy about doing the Akira slide. It's really not particularly important, but, I just feel like that's a sort of very metatextual nod that takes me out of a game like this, and I think it's very important to stay involved in the moment, in the eyes of Samus. But I think, again, it's also an indication to me that this game is very much hewing close to the more cinematic stylings of Prime 3 Corruption. And then obviously we have a little stinger here of Silex. And then we're onto the key art. We're onto this screen, by the way, cute little thing. The journey to launch continues. The tagline on the trailer for the Nintendo Direct from, September, was Journey to Launch begins. So my hope, fingers crossed, is that we're going to continue to have more information come out about the game in the coming weeks. But we're only, today's a month out from launch, so we're getting quite close. So, I think that's basically everything I wanted to say. I just kind of wanted to give you a little bit of a sense of, and let me just play this again so you don't have to just look at me, God forbid. So I want to give you a little bit of a sense of what this trailer is doing for me, what it's sort of signaling to me, and why I remain extremely, extremely unfathomably excited for the game. And, the discourse around it is very much being dominated by the perceived status that this game has in relation to Nintendo's other games, Nintendo's interest in marketing it, the quality of the trailers, and Nintendo's more popular than ever now. So I completely understand that a very niche game like this that is very much in conversation with some forgotten Nintendo titles is going to sort of receive a spotlight and a level of attention maybe not commensurate to what the actual interest in the game is going to be. So, if you're not into the trailers, whatever, I don't care, to be honest. I think that this is a game that's very clearly speaking to and made for the people who've been waiting for this kind of homecoming for, at this point, many decades. So, yeah, I think that's basically all I wanted to touch on here. If you want to go right back to Twitter and talk about how you think the trailers are cut badly, that's your prerogative. But I hope that I've done a little bit to at least explain what this game means if you are deeply invested in the games that came before it. So, okay. It's been 14 minutes, already longer than I wanted this to be, so I will talk to you later. Goodbye. If I can hit the fucking stop recording button. Holy crow.